don't care.
And Maddie, before we get too farther into the conversation, explain to people what regenerative farming is and why it's important.
Yeah. So regenerative farming is, at its essence, it's farming that is like the primary objective. It's not actually the primary objective, but to do it right, you are focusing on taking care of your soil and your soil ecosystem and your ecosystem as a whole. So basically, uh, the practices are meant to help build like really healthy, vibrant topsoil and build a lot of it. Because what happens is when you have healthy topsoil, um, you have all of the microorganisms, the nematodes and the fungi, the mycelial networks and the microbes, that those are the things that are actually able to take nutrients and pass them to the roots of the plant and grow a really healthy plant. So, like, yeah, you can, and you can imagine the difference between like a really healthy, like black soil that you like, new potting soil, for example, and you can see it's got all this like spongy uh, vibrancy versus like a field that's kind of been tilled a bunch of times and it's more like dirt. Another thing that happens in regenerative agriculture is that because you have that really healthy topsoil, you're able to retain water in the soil. You can imagine trying to pour water onto that dirt versus pouring it into your new potting soil, right? It's like sponge versus mudslide.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so the regenerative agriculture just has all of these benefits that allow, or that the principle is to work in relationship with the natural systems in order for plants to be healthy and vibrant and resilient, by having like a more biodiverse ecosystem. You what happens a lot in industrial, like traditional, I'll call it traditional, but industrial agriculture is you have like one field that's got the same thing through the whole field. Sometimes that plant is actually like one set of genetics, like it's a genetically modified organism that's the same through the whole field. So you get a fungus or a blight of some kind that starts to come into the field and it can just take everything out like super easily. Whereas in a regenerative system, your focus is on building a biodiverse ecosystem. That means that, oh, you get one plant with a fungus over here, but there's all of these other critters and microorganisms that are there that actually can help kind of keep that in balance, keep it checked, and um, yeah, just building resiliency through diversity.
And that is so important. And as a child of history, as I am, and I say child of history, it just means I'm watching a ton of documentaries. I just so happen to have just watched an FDR documentary because he was the president through the Great Depression, and specifically when we were having things called the Dust Bowl happening in the Midwest. And for people that aren't aware, please go Google the Dirty 30s and you'll see what I'm talking about. And it was exactly that was happening, that they were over farming the soil. There was no regenerative processes in place. And all of a sudden soil's depleted. We have a drought and literally nothing could grow. And it was a gigantic dust storm. And we look at history and we say, oh, we can't get into those situations like that again, which really brings us to the rise of things like regenerative farming and why it is so important, because you can't keep depleting one area without really thinking about, well, how do we also build it up? So when we see, brands like yours and products that are really thinking about the life cycle of like not just where we are sourcing our ingredients, but what are we doing to make sure that that land is still, able to produce more or, better sustainability for future generations is so important, because back in the day we didn't think about that. It was really just like, hey, we're making money on this and the government's supporting it. And next thing you know, Great Depression, everybody's starving to death and there's nothing we can do, right? So if you guys haven't looked up that, please go do a deep documentary search like I am doing now. Really learn your history because it is fascinating. And it also makes you realize like, hey, people like Maddie are really solving problems that we don't want to get into again. So with
Yeah.
that said, also making it super tasty. So thanks for that, because we both know if it doesn't taste good, people are like, it's okay. I don't really care about the soil anyway. It'll be fine.